What's going on, guys? It's Seth back with another Defense Wins Fantasy, part of the Fantasyholics Podcast Network. I'm going to go ahead and ask for your pardon on my voice tonight. It's a little bit scratchy. Been dealing with a little bit of a throat cold for really about 2 weeks now, but we're going to continue to push on because we're too close to the season to take any breaks. You know what I'm saying? So we've got the AFC North tonight, and we're going to go out over the breakouts, busts, and players to watch. Hit them where it counts. Give you some guys to go target. Give you some guys to maybe say, yeah, I'll let somebody else go ahead and put them in the lineup. And then, of course, a player that might be somebody you want to grab, might be somebody just to keep an eye on, might be somebody that I'm saying, I'd find a trade partner now. So we're going to start with the AFC North and the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. They've done a lot to help their offense, but they've also lost a lot on defense that we haven't been talking about. Considering both their middle linebackers are new, that's where we're going to start. Cole Holcomb is my breakout player for 2023, and that is why... Well, it's just because there's nothing more than a player being put in the lineup that has a chance to succeed. He's been a very good talent when he's been on the Washington Commanders. He comes over this year. The opportunity will come in this defense. They will basically filter guys into him to get tackles. And he's the linebacker that I put my bet on. Coming off a really pretty much injury-plagued 2022 there in Washington, he should get back on track with the new team, with a team that is known for being just solid on defense, well coached, well run. They're going to put him into a position to succeed, and Cole Holcomb will be the guy that I'm going to be putting my chips on to be a solid LB3, maybe low-end LB2 during this season. Now, my buzz player is another free agent acquisition, and that's Patrick Peterson. You know, old reliable cornerback Patrick Peterson, who honestly I still remember changing our league setup because Patrick Peterson started catching passes in Arizona early in his career, and we had to make sure that he would get credit for those as a defensive player. So that's been a long time ago, and I like when corners get a little bit older. I do, because that means that they're a step slow, they get more tackles. That kind of happened with Patrick Peterson. He finished with the most tackles of his career last year. But he also hauled in 5 interceptions that were, albeit pretty fluky, near the end of the season. 5 interceptions was the second most of his career, his long, drawn-out career. So what that tells me is regression is coming in the interception department. Maybe not the tackles because of what I've said about them losing a step, but there's no way that he's finishing as a top 5 corner this year, moving teams, moving to a different scheme, and also needing to, have another phenomenal year intercepting the ball. It's just not going to happen. Tackles, consistency, great. I'd rather go with a nickel corner than an outside corner that's lost a step. You're still going to get more tackles with a nickel. So that takes us to my player to watch. Now, he was my breakout player last year, and he suited that role very, very well, and that's Alex Highsmith, linebacker / edge player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 14.5 sacks last year. 14.5 sacks. That's crazy. And a lot of that was done with T.J. Watt out of the lineup. But they gave Alex Highsmith a very nice extension this offseason to maintain with the team. I personally believe that Alex Highsmith is the real deal, has the ability to maintain performing at a high level. But 14.5 sacks is tough. And is he going to be able to do it with T.J. Watt on the field as well? That's why he's in my players to watch. I'm not saying that I'm going to bail on him. I'm not saying that he won't be successful. But what I am saying is repeating last year might be a little bit difficult. So keep an eye on it. And maybe if you see, some hints, maybe still move him when he still has high volume or after he does get a 1 or 2 sack game. So that moves us on to the Baltimore Ravens, and it is year 2, same breakout. Am I crazy? You be the judge. Kyle Hamilton, safety. I said last year he was my breakout player as well. One of the highest ranked players I had coming in to the defensive players last year. Absolutely the number 1 safety, and boy, that did not turn out with some of the magnificent safeties that we had come out this last rookie year. So let's just say that things didn't go as planned. But the back end of the year was pretty good. Pretty good. Once they started giving him playing time, Hamilton responded. They moved him from one of their safeties. They moved one of the safeties this offseason, and that gives Hamilton even more of a reason to have breakout capability this year. He is extremely talented, a very big guy, can take a hit, can intercept the ball, was absolutely phenomenal at Notre Dame. I'm sticking with my horse, and I really do believe that Kyle Hamilton is going to come into that upper echelon safety this season. It's feeling a little bit like deja vu because my bust player is Patrick Queen, linebacker, who was my bust player last year, and I will be adamant that I was wrong on Patrick Queen last year. Let's be honest, he had his best year of his career fantasy-wise last season. And I don't believe that that's going to repeat. I will say that the interesting part with that is that mid-season they traded for Roquan Smith. And he actually scored more points with Roquan than he did without him. But the level that these two played at together last year was partially due to a just absolutely awful offense at the back end of the year. And with Lamar being out, it's tough to do anything good on offense. But, I will say that Lamar has missed the back end of the last 2 seasons, so there's still that risk that could boost their value. But I think Queen comes a little bit down to earth this year. I know he is playing for a new contract, and I get that, but I think that Roquan, with a little bit better understanding of the defense, is going to take that step forward. You're going to have a more tackle-heavy safety in Hamilton, more on the field. That's going to make a step forward. I think Queen just takes a step back. Now, my player to watch, points per game last year was phenomenal. That's Marcus Williams, safety. Dude, he was playing nuts before he got hurt last year. And he played in 10 games total. 61 tackles, 4 picks. 6.1 tackles a game, and averaging, a pick every 3 games. Great stats. He was lights out. But the level that these two, he came back in December and he was still playing solid. Now that was with Roquan, now with Patrick Queen, and with Hamilton all on the field. My question is, with them having a full offseason altogether, will Williams still be getting the tackle numbers he was and the big playability that there was there last season? Big playability, I think, will still be Marcus Williams' game. But I don't think that he's going to get the consistency of the tackles that he had last year. Don't get me wrong, he should be on your roster or on a roster. But he needs to be one you watch the games and see how he flows with the rest of the team on the field. I feel like he's going to be a little bit more of a boom-bust type guy than he is going to be a week-in, week-out consistent player for your lineup. Like I said, last year he was annihilating teams with his interceptions and tackles and everything else. We're just going to have to see if that's going to continue. Moving on to the Bengals, but staying on the trend of safety, my breakout player for them is second-year player Dax Hill, who is currently listed as safety. I know there's been questions, cornerback, nickelback safety with him. He is the starting safety on their depth chart currently. First round rookie last year, and he basically rode the pine. He was my player to watch. I wanted to see kind of how they used him. Pop quiz answer, they didn't really use him at all. But Von Bell left town. Jesse Bates left town. Both safeties leaving in free agency. Dax Hill is now primed for a major role on this defense. Like I said, he's listed at safety, which is even better. Dax can play all over the field, but he's going to get upwards of 90 to 110 tackles this season by playing safety. Then add in a few big plays, and you have a solid starter on your defense that if people are not as well versed in defense, looking at last year's stats to try to figure out who's good, who's not, Dax Hill won't be on that list. But he's going to be very good this year. Now, my bust player is defensive end Trey Hendrickson. Trey's an interesting case. Solid sack artist. Has performed well since coming to the Bengals in 2021. But that's all he is a sack artist. Granted, since coming to the Bengals, he set career high in tackles the last 2 years. What are those numbers? 33 and 34. Not great when you're talking fantasy. So that tells me he's got very, very low floor. He also dropped his sack numbers last year from, he was, 14, I think, the year before, to 8. But even worse, he had 8 sacks and he got them all in 5 games. Don't get me wrong, if he had started him in those 5 games, you were super excited. But those other 3 games, you probably lost or were at least pissed off at what you got out of him. He was great or he was non-existent. And that's not how I like my defensive ends. With no tackle balance for consistency, Trey is a boom or bust who more often than not will bust for your team. And that's my concern with him. You want to talk about dynasty? He's 28 years old. He's got a very expensive contract. And they just drafted my player to watch in the first round of this year's draft. Myles Murphy, defensive end. And we'll dive right into him. They're looking to the future, the Bengals are. Myles Murphy pick. They understand that they're going to have cap issues. They understand that they have 2 28-year-old defensive ends in Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. I doubt they keep both when their contracts come up. When do their contracts come up? Oh, look at that. The same year, 2025. Trey also has, as I said, a massive contract. The Bengals can get out of that next year. So what do I look at for Myles Murphy? One, I look at him as an IDP dynasty stash for sure. But I want to see how constantly he is in the rotation and step in for any of these injured guys. If he's able to just continue to be successful and get into the quarterback when he gets those chances, he's going to constantly build upon that repertoire. And Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson don't have the best health backgrounds. So there's opportunities for Myles Murphy to step into a starting role if one of these 2 guys go down. I'm very excited to see how they use Myles Murphy. But again, you can tell that they're making moves to be able to sign that Joe Burrow, that Jamar Chase, that T. Higgins, to see if they can try to cut some of the fat by hitting on a young rookie contract Myles Murphy. So that brings us to the Cleveland Browns. My breakout player for the Cleveland Browns is Myles Garrett. No, it's not, but you know he's going to be great. He's my number 1 defensive end. Very easy to talk about Myles Garrett, so we're not going to. But draft him. He's going to be great. It's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. J-O-K. For short, because he has a very long name. Linebacker. Why is he my breakout player? Partially due to the flashes that he's shown last year. Partially due to last year's stats being a little skewed because of him going in and out of the lineup so much. Because of little nagging injuries. I'm predicting health for JOK, and that comes with a great opportunity to be LB1 on this team and really an LB2 on the season. High linebacker 3 is more likely, but he does have the ability to become a linebacker 2, that 13 through 24 range of linebackers on the season. He has the skills for pass coverage. He hasn't had a lot of big plays since he's been pro, which is a little bit of a concern, but he has had big tackle numbers that show consistency there. I'm expecting him to really kind of flash this year, and that's why JOK is my breakout player for the Browns. My bust player is a guy that had a phenomenal year last year, and that is Grant Delpit. Really, he came off his breakout year last year. Finished the season with 105 tackles, 1 sack, and 4 picks. Really came into his own in year 3 after really that being his sophomore year, because year 1 he missed the entire season. But my concerns with Grant are twofold. One, as I talked about the breakout player JOK, I think he's going to be a more efficient tackler, which will take away opportunities from Grant Delpit. Number 2 is the signing of Juan Thornhill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Thornhill will take tackles away from Grant, and I look for Grant to regress this season. I don't think that Grant gets 4 interceptions, and I think that he drops just under 100 tackles, maybe to the 85-90 tackle range, which is nice, but it's not going to be top-tier safety level for you. So Grant Delpit, the safety, is my bust player for the Cleveland Browns this year. Now, my player to watch is Agabanani Okoroko. This is a tough last name. Okoronkwo. There we go. Defensive end. Now, Ogbo, to me, was my early offseason breakout candidate. And then they traded for Zadarius Smith. So that has kind of overshadowed my thoughts and my beliefs for Ogby. Defensive coordinator, though, Jim Schwartz, new to the team. He does love rotating his D linemen. He won't rotate D lineman Myles Garrett out unless he wants to get fired. So if he gives Ogbo enough snaps, he has the chance to be a difference maker. The Smith trade is enough for me to hold off on picking him up, but I will be very interested to see snap percentages after week 1. If they're pretty 50-50, if he feels like he's got a good opportunity, then I might go ahead and just snatch him up. But there is some concerns, once again, with Zadarius Smith coming over, because he is a good player. He can get to the quarterback. I'm just hoping for more of a rotation that helps Ogby get a little bit more of an opportunity than he will if they just put him on the bench. So again, not the biggest fan of the Zadarius Smith trade for fantasy. Makes sense for the Bengals or for the Browns as a team, though. So that is the AFC North. A little bit fast, a little bit flying through, trying to make sure that I had enough voice to get to the end of the episode. But again, season's coming up quickly. Make sure that you're paying attention. Make sure that you're heading to fantasyholics.com and checking out the website. Yes, that has dropped. Yes, it is beautiful. And yes, our content is free. Free. No paywalls there. Go check out the rankings. Go understand and read the articles. Take a look at what we got for you, because there's a lot to go through, and you're going to need to start now to get through it before the start of the season. So head on over to fantasyholics.com. Check us out. You won't be sorry. But until then, remember that preseason football is not that exciting. You just miss football so much, you're willing to watch it. But pay attention to the defensive players and how they're playing on the field, what kind of scheme it looks like, because at the end of the day, that scheme's going to be the same, and we all know that defense wins fantasy. We'll see you next week.